So let's have a look at some events that are yet to occur, and I've already mentioned these previously. Basically events surrounding what I've called World War III, which will see the establishment of last days Babylon. The United States and world order collapses under economic collapse, civil strife and war, and Esau sets his nest amongst the stars. The 10 lost tribes of the house of Israel leave the United States for the North Country. This is inferred because some stage of the future the 10 lost tribes must leave the North Country, so they must be there. So the secular state of Israel collapses and is replaced by a religious state. So I'm going to look at that shortly. And then this will lead on to events that are much more in line with Scripture and not nearly so much inferred stuff, but direct scriptural fulfillment. We're now living in the times that the Scriptures, and especially the Old Testament and the Tanakh, mention specifically. So we'll get into that later. So and then finally we get into the 7-year tribulation. The bride goes to sleep. We have the apostasy and the man of sin revealed. And then the 7-year tribulation, the second coming, and the millennial reign of the Messiah. All right, so let's look at that first part now. I won't go through those again. Here we go. So what is the purpose of World War III? So let's just summarize. Well, it's to get the house of Israel out of the United States. And again, World War III isn't mentioned specifically, but in order for us to get to the place that is the North Country, there's going to have to be something that's rather upsetting that's going to come to America. So the purpose is to get the house of Israel out of the USA and to get us to the North Country. This will allow us to come together as a nation for the first time, and then we'll be able to learn Hebrew and Aramaic. And there's some people that have got a chance to do that now, but many of us are too busy. Once we're in the North Country, we'll be able to set up shop there and do things the way we ought to. And we'll be able to begin to learn to govern ourselves biblically. We'll be running our local assemblies, and we'll be able to pass judgments. In the New Testament, it tells us, you shouldn't bring brothers to court in an ungodly court. You should be able to deal with those things yourself. And so if we take the Torah seriously and humbly, we should be able to deal with a lot of issues that crop up between believers. And once we start doing that corporately, not just as an individual messianic assembly, but as a people, as groups of assemblies, we've really got the beginning of self-government. So if we want to be free of the New World Order, we really need to have to rule ourselves. So we can actually escape the New World Order not through guns and ammunition, but actually through self-government to a large degree. And to a large degree, the reason that we're in such a mess today and we've lost our freedom is because we've become lawless. So another purpose of World War III is to bring judgment to the wicked. Our world has become wicked, and when it feels like at the moment, and I'm recording this at the big, November 2014, the world seems to be frothing like a pot that's on the boil, and you just don't know when it's going to boil over the top. But this is because of the wickedness that's in the world. And so one of the reasons that we're going to have a world war is to actually bring judgment. And one of the results of this world war is we'll see the center of power, economic power, political power, technological power, move to the Middle East. And that will enable the building of last days Babylon, as prophesied in Zechariah chapter 5, and we're just going to look at that now. So in Zechariah 5, we read, starting from verse 5, "Then the angel that talked with me went forth and said unto me, Lift up now thine eyes, and see what is this that goeth forth. Now this is a prophecy which is perhaps being given a bad run. I've heard, I'm going to mention names, I've heard Michael Rood say this is a whole thing about a nuclear missile. Now whether you can, sometimes God can be economical with Scripture and he can be talking on a whole lot of levels, and it could actually, there could be something that you could infer that this woman represents fire and the lead represents plutonium and that, but it misses the whole point of this verse. This verse is all about the regathering of wickedness to the land of Shinar, as we'll read shortly. So that picture up there, just take a look at it. It's a woman in a basket, and there's two angelic consorts with the wings of storks, and they take her to the land of Shinar, as we read. So in verse 6 we read, "And I said, What is it? And he said, This is an ephah that goeth forth." And an ephah is a unit of volume, a dry measure. It's a Hebrew word. It means a measure of volume or weight or something to that effect. He said, "Moreover, this is their resemblance through all the earth. And behold, there was lifted up a talent of lead, and this is a woman that sitteth in the midst of the ephah." And he said, "This is wickedness." And in Hebrew it's haresha, it's the wickedness. "And he cast it into the midst of the ephah, and he cast the weight of lead upon the mouth thereof." And you say, what is this all about? Well, preceding verses start to explain. So let's continue reading. In verse 9 we read, "Then lifted I up mine eyes and looked, and behold, and there came out two women, and the wind was in their wings, for they had wings like the wings of a stork. And they lifted," and the stork is an unclean creature, by the way, "and they lifted up their ephah between the earth and the heaven. Then said I to the angel that talked with me, Whither do these bear the ephah? And he said unto me, To build it an house in the land of Shinar, and it shall be established and set thereupon her own base." Now, where's Shinar? Now that's Shinar, not China. Okay, Shinar is mentioned in Genesis chapter 11, verse 2. They came to the land of Shinar, and they said, "Let us build a city and a name for ourselves and a tower that reaches up into heaven." And they built Babylon. They built the Tower of Babel. So this is a prophecy about the return of wickedness to the place of rebellion where they built Babylon. And this is how when we get to the book of Revelation, we have Mystery Babylon the Great, we have the trading system, and it's centered in the physical city of Babel. So Babel's rebuilt, and this chapter, Zechariah, is all about the rebuilding of Babylon. And so we haven't got to that stage yet, but we've seen Babylon being formed through the League of Nations in World War I, then the United Nations in World War II. And we're going to see all of that that's been built there brought to the land of Shinar. It's going to be flowing there with speed. There's the idea of speed, and there's a heavenly aspect to this whole thing. So wickedness is returning to the land of Shinar. And it's almost like a heavenly, out of this world sort of thing going on. There's other heavenly things that are going on. So we've got to get to the stage where this is fulfilled, and a world war will be one of the means of doing that, of bringing the world to its knees. So they say we must not have wars anymore. The League of Nations didn't work. United Nations didn't work. Let's try last days Babylon. And here we have it in Scripture being mentioned. So we have another Scripture also. This is in Obadiah, and this is related to the regathering of the lost tribes, because Esau, Jacob's brother, ultimately he's going to be destroyed, sadly, for him. At the end of the 7-year tribulation. We read about that in Obadiah. But it opens up, and Obadiah opens up with a verse that I think is quite interesting. It says, "Though thou exalt thyself as an eagle, and though thou set thy nest amongst the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. Now, I love space travel, so I'm not having it. I don't think there's anything wrong with space travel. Now, there might be some landlubbers that don't like to go up there. I don't see a problem with going up to space. God doesn't say that He's against Esau because he doesn't like space travel. He says this because Esau has a hatred towards his brother, and he treats his brother Jacob badly. So Esau has a space program, and he's going to set his nest amongst the stars. He's going to head to the stars, but because of his treatment of Israel, he will be brought down. Esau is already heading to the stars. We have NASA and the space program, and we have a whole commercialization of low Earth orbit. So we're actually, if you read the scriptures, you can actually see prophecy nearing fulfillment. We're living at a time, there's never been a time when this could be fulfilled literally until now. Now we have the capability to send people into space. And so we must be very near for this prophecy to begin to be fulfilled. And it's very interesting. The name Esau he's also called Edom. Edom meaning red because of the red stew. And the name for Mars is Edom. And this chap here, Elon Musk, I'm not having a go at him. He's maybe a very decent sort of fellow, not a believer, but he's wanted to go to Mars, and he's built a reusable spaceship to get him there. And that's currently being developed, and it's already sending cargo to the International Space Station. And he's got a new version of the capsule, the Dragon capsule, very interesting name. And Esau is already taking to the stars.